So in part 3, we're going to explore component of a Wikidata item. So now we're going to really look at a page in Wikidata about an item. And so this will be more concrete. So we're going to look actually at the header at the start, which contains the name, the description, which is multi-language. We're going to look at all the statements that compose a Wikidata item. And we're going to talk about the external identifiers, which are a more particular statement type. And we also are going to look at Interwiki links, which we glanced earlier on. So it's going to be. So this is we're back here on a Wikidata item page. So of course, or Tchaikovsky. So what we have first is the label. The label is like the best name in this language, or the best way to represent the concept. So for a human being, of course, it's his full name, first surname, last name, and you also have a description. Now, a description is really a small amount of word which gives you an idea of what you're talking about. It's very important, especially when you're working with names that have many meaning. Like for the Titanic, the description is what's going to help you make sure you talk about the good item. So is the Titanic a boat? Is it a movie? Or is it a music band? So the description here is, but this is open text, and it can be written many ways. And there's also aliases, and aliases are very, very helpful, because sometimes when you talk about someone, Peter, sometimes we talk about Peter Tchaikovsky. So of course, the automated searching tools cannot change automatically Pierre to Peter, because it's not closely related. So but by having aliases, we can add many ways of saying the same concept in one language, because of course you can have aliases in any language. So this is very, very important, and it's really a strength of Wikidata to be completely language agnostic. Wikidata doesn't care about language. So, and see here we have English, French, Italian, and German. So now this is the Interwiki links that we saw a bit earlier. So let's go more in depth looking at that. So Wikipedia, of course, is the most known project and the most evolved project of the Wikimedia Foundation. So it'd be the first one, and we see that there are many languages. So for Tchaikovsky, which is a famous person, of course, he exists in many of those Wikipedias. Now you also have other projects. So there's Wikibooks, WikiLinks in French. So if there was a book about Tchaikovsky, well, you would see a link here. There's also Wikinews, which are articles. So you see in Russian, there was an article about Tchaikovsky. There's also the project WikiQuotes. So now we see he's present in more languages. There's also Wikisource. Wikisource, which is taking old books and transforming them into a numerical object or numerical presence. So we see that in a few old books in either Russian or English, we have about Tchaikovsky. So that's the Interwiki. Now the triple or statements. So we're looking right now at the page, the Nutcracker. So the Nutcracker is not there, but it's implicit. Everything here is a triple starting with Nutcracker as the object. The first item is actually the property, so the composer, and this is the value, Tchaikovsky. But there's also the choreographer, which is actually, there are two of them. So this is also funny, because this is actually, we see it only once, but it's actually two triples. So one is with the value Lev Ivanov, and the second one is with Marius Petit. So basically, This is 2 triple. So we have here 1 triple. We have another second one here. We have a third one, a fourth one, and a fifth one. So in this screen snapshot, you can see that there are 5 triples. And those are the 5 values actually that are pointed here. There are some statements that are very like common, like every human being probably has family ties. So you have father, you have mother, you have siblings. So if you go to see the Nutcracker, you'll see that there are quite a few. See, we have the whole smaller, but you can see that the picture is actually one of the declarations. So here the value is a picture. So external identifiers. Now this is like I said earlier on, external identifiers are really a strength of Wikidata, because Wikidata will never be able to hold all the information human manipulate, because of course this is probably an infinite number or very, very high. But Wikidata can make sure that it does have a link to every database, external database that has information about that. So instead of adding more information, it just put a link to these other data, so other systems of data. So this is really a strength, because if you can't find it on Wikidata, maybe you can find a link to where you will find the information you're looking for. And it's also, it can be used to generate queries that's going to be extracting data from Wikidata, but also at the same time from other external sources. So the external identifier is a requirement for that. And we talk a lot about link data, but external identifiers are exactly that. They make links between data that is in Wikidata and data that is outside of Wikidata. So it's very, very important concept. An external identifier. So let's take Elisabeth Isiak, sorry. Now we can see here that there are a few identifiers. So the VF, you see, which is a virtual identifier. Sorry, I will see it more, but it's a global identifier for every element, or for a lot of human concepts. So there's also ISNI, which they want to create IDs for every person that does some work. There's Bibliothèque Nationale de France. So this is also libraries. They all have like internal identifiers. So in Wikidata, this is one property, Bibliothèque Nationale de France. So like I said, there's a lot of properties that are actually identifiers. So FastID is another property to identify to a special external service. Library of Congress, which is a big library, probably one of the biggest in the world. So they have IDs for all authors or books, or so we can link it into Wikidata with this. There's also here we might have heard about Music Brains or IMDb, which are also very known external identifiers. There's also all the like social media like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those services. They always have an identifier. So in Wikidata, you have a property for each of them, like Facebook ID, and then you can put, and actually for Facebook, you have IDs for users, but you also have IDs for Facebook page, which are different. So there can be more than one ID for an external system. So it's quite varied. Sorry. Oh. One thing that is particular about the external identifiers is that even though you put like in VF, it's a numerical value, but you see it's also a link, because even if you put only numbers, which usually you don't click numbers, there's no link for numbers. But since it knows the context, this is an ID of VF. If you click on the number, it will actually open the VF page of that ID. So very powerful.